Hello, friends. If you are an employee network based in either the US or the UK, then this video is for you. This is all about all of the legal stuff that's been going on that are mainly in the world of sort of DEI, and I use that acronym specifically, but they do potentially impact some of the things that employee networks get involved in, and they do actually mandate some rules around how employee networks operate. So that's what I want to get into for this video. Folks, this is ERG Strategy, the channel that gives you tips, tools, advice, strategies, etc. to help you build effective, engaged employee networks that make a difference in the workplace. New videos every Tuesday. I'm trying my best, people, and I go live on LinkedIn, and it streams here as well on every Friday at 8:30 a.m. UK time. And I also have a Substack, which I always forget to let you know about, the ERG debrief, where I do like my monthly roundup. Anyway. Right, so if you, I'm using no notes today because this is really front of mind. This is something that has been brewing for a number of years with all of the backlash against DEI, particularly all of the executive orders, etc. in the US. And so this is something I talked about a little while ago, but I wanted to bring a little bit of an update because we've seen some settlements recently. IBM settled in the US with the government around claims that it was, sort of continuing some of its DEI programs, etc., and submitting false representations to the government. So caveat this, I am not legal. I'm not legally trained. I did do an A-level in law many years ago, but I'm not legally trained, so this is not legal advice. So if you do have any concerns, or if your organization has any concerns, particularly if you are based in the US and you are a contractor of the government, then obviously you would be taking legal advice anyway, and you would be making sure that all of your programs have been risk assessed. So that's probably the first bit of advice, because I have no notes today. If you are based in the US, or you're a global network and you have some operations in the US, or you're doing any initiatives in the US, and you are a contractor of the government, I would definitely advise getting some legal advice to even look at what you are doing as an employee network in terms of who is allowed to meetings, etc., what kinds of programs you're running, and make sure that they risk assess it and give you any advice that's needed. But some of the advice that I've got here, there's some employee networks that I worked with all of like 3-4 years ago who this advice is still relevant for, and some networks that I'm recently working with and about to start working with. And the first thing that I want to talk about is closed meetings. It's a no-no, right? If you're in any doubt, closed meetings is a no-no. Now, is that to say that, it's not to say that you can't have closed meetings, but certainly if you're in the US, it's a complete no-no. Like, do not have meetings where you basically say only people from this identity can come to this meeting. What you can say is this meeting is to talk about the interests of such and such a group, right? You can say that. You can say this meeting is about that specific group, or the inclusion of that group, and what we can do as an organization, and maybe have some evidence to support why that meeting is so specific to the group, which if you're an employee network, you should have some data and evidence behind it anyway, right? But with your meeting, still leave it open to all, open to allies, open to colleagues that want to come in just to listen, to learn, etc. That's what you want to be doing. And I'm giving that same advice really now to networks in the UK, because, we've had like local elections recently. The headwinds are blowing across the pond, right? So we're probably going to start to see similar rules coming into play. And to be honest, here's the thing that I say. For employee networks, if you are holding closed meetings and you have been doing that for 2 to 3 years, I'm kind of saying you're probably stuck in a little bit of a rut, because those types of things is what I typically see very early on when a network is first forming. You want to create some safe spaces for people to share their experiences of what's going on. Right, I get it. I completely get it. But if you're at a stage where the network's been running for 3 or 4 years and you're still feeling the need to run routinely, right? I'm not talking about specific listening circles. I'm saying routinely to run closed meetings. You probably need to think about what else is going on in terms of in the organization and in terms of the culture, such that you're still having to run closed meetings, because actually there's probably something a little bit more systemic that your network actually isn't tackling, right? So that's the first thing that I want to say. So as a general rule, as an employee network, I want all of your meetings to be open to all, right? Regardless of the topic. Let me just talk about listening sessions really specifically. If there is a specific issue that, for example, is impacting on the emotional well-being or the emotional health of a specific group, and so you feel that there is a need to create safe spaces, what I would advise that you do is you have that fully documented, like you have the decision process documented, you have it risk assessed, you get approval from your exec sponsor and from your HR and from your legal team as well. And then you go ahead and run those specific sessions. And as I say, it shouldn't be like an ongoing thing. It should just be specific. So that's the first one. Keep your meetings open to all. And then I want to get into specific programs, right? So specific programs, particularly, and tis the season where a lot of mentoring programs are kicking off, right? If you read my Substack, you'll know that I was talking, and in a couple of videos ago, I was talking about my views on reverse mentoring. So if you want to delve into that, please do check out that video. I'll try to remember to put a link below. It's probably not going to happen. Let's be honest about it. So 'tis the season when things like reverse mentoring programs are kicking off, or other types of development programs. I know that women's networks in particular tend to like these types of programs. So development programs aimed at getting more women, for example, into the board. Some of these programs are really coming under attack in terms of legal action. Definitely, again, if you're in the States and if you are a contractor of the government, a complete no-no having programs that are completely closed to anybody else. I think that there's a way that you position it so that you de-risk it, but you still sort of say that it is geared towards maybe the specific challenges of that particular group. And I think these principles, again, I think are very useful for certainly organisations in the UK, where we've got like the similar sort of political headwinds blowing across in the UK, and also the same risk of legal action as well. So when it comes to programs, I would say generally you can make them open to all, even if they have been designed around the specific needs of a group. And actually, when I think about it, I ran some training in November, December, which was around career acceleration. So it was typical like professional development. And I've done a lot of this sort of thing with networks in the past. But to be honest, when I think back, even like when I think like sort of 7 years ago, when I was first doing some of this type of training, professional development stuff with networks, this was a global network headquartered in the US. The way that it was done, the way that it was pitched, it was like the network was kind of like sponsoring the training, but it was open to all. And the training that I did in December, it was designed around those needs of like an ethnicity network. So we were thinking about, it was myself and a co-facilitator, so I was brought in to support the training development. And we were specifically thinking about the challenges that individuals from ethnically diverse backgrounds often have in organisations, right? It's a large UK organisation. So that's how we designed the training. But the reality is these techniques work for anybody, right? And even though in the training we did get into some of the challenges that may be unique to individuals that are from ethnically diverse backgrounds in terms of whether it be building relationships or managing stakeholders, or, just like cultural differences in terms of, how we operate and navigating unwritten rules. But still, the training was open to everybody. And it was actually also offered out to clients. Clients could nominate individuals. That's a great way of making your programs feel more commercially oriented if you're a B2B organization in particular. But yeah, this training was open to everyone. So it wasn't a case of you can only come to the training if you're black or brown, right? If you're not white. It wasn't like that, basically. It was open to everyone. And we had, people of all races, all genders in the training. And so that's what my my recommendation would be, if you have programs, so if you are, for example, a women's network and you had a program which is around women and women's development program, maybe don't call it women's development, just call it, a development program that's being sponsored by the women's network, that is open to everybody, but maybe make it clear that you are going to be, focusing on some of the challenges that typically are experienced by women, obviously can be experienced by others as well. So that's how I would recommend you approach programs. And when it comes to selecting who goes on it, again, just make sure that it's fair, transparent, make sure it's fully documented, approved by exec sponsor, learning and development team, reviewed by legal, before you go ahead, basically. So that's, those are two of the things, in terms of some of these initiatives, making sure that you're getting approval, everything's fully documented. And if somebody isn't certain, make sure that these things are maybe run under the noses of your legal team as well. So those are the two main things really in terms of meetings, would that be committee meetings or kind of event type meetings, networking, etc., and also your development programs. Obviously, when it comes to events more broadly, I would expect that those should be open to everybody anyway, right? Because often your events are based around awareness. So any sort of like wider events always should be open to anyone. And the only thing I would say in terms of your events is just be really mindful, right? Be careful. Don't let it stop what you're doing, but just be careful. And I would say, I think my final bit of advice would be get a sounding board. So you've got your exec sponsor, which is great. Use your exec sponsor as a sounding board, especially around things like the titles of events. I mean, I need to do a video the one day about the time I almost got cancelled myself running an inclusion event where I was kind of using, I was trying to be like a little bit smart, I guess, and I was using a little bit of a controversial title, and it did not go down well. I mean, the session still went ahead, but some people were like, I don't like that title, and what is this person going to be saying? The session itself was absolutely fine, but the title, sometimes you've just got to be careful. There is obviously the case in the UK last summer of the civil service where one of their networks did an event that had a title that was just way too controversial, and that's actually partly what led to networks in the civil service in the UK being told that they have to run events in their own time and not on work time. So just be very careful when it comes to topics, speakers and themes, titles of events. Like, this isn't the time to be messing around, because there are organizations out there that are actively encouraging and potentially also giving financial rewards to, in quote unquote, whistleblowers that are basically, this is certainly what's happening in the States, that are literally offering financial incentives to individuals to, report organizations that are carrying on illegal DEI programs. And unfortunately, some of the work that employee networks undertake falls under scrutiny within that. So you've just got to be careful. Some of the legal stuff recently, so IBM in the States recently settled out of court. It's a shame actually that they didn't take it to court, because some legal cases have been won and actually thrown out, a lot of this anti-DEI stuff. But clearly IBM didn't want to take that risk, so they settled out of court. So basically this video is to say be careful and to just give you those little pieces of advice. And if you are in any doubt, please do check things with your legal team, bounce things off your sponsor. That is it for today. I'll be back next week with hopefully a slightly lighter topic, but hope you are all good. If you're in London and you're going to be heading to the ERG Leader Summit in June 18th, we do still have tickets, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Take care. Bye.